Hi, you're listening to Everyday Superpower. You know what it is by now. This is the place where you yourself can learn bit by bit how to read an individual's mind purely through the subconscious signals that they send out into the world. Okay? Likewise, you're going to be able to understand your own nonverbal communication and how you subconsciously send what you really think out into the world and how other people can read that, alright? So, today's going to be a relatively brief lesson. We're going to be talking about the concept of energy displacement. So, this is any body language that burns energy in order to create relief for the individual. Okay, so it's when we go through an excess of nervous or stressful energy, and it needs to come out through some indirect means, and that tends to go under wraps of the conscious mind, so we don't really pick up on it, but we might have a particular fidget or twitch or means of relieving that nervous energy, getting it out of us, okay? Because otherwise we're just going to be repressing this bubbly, electrified energy, and we just don't do that, okay? Not when we have a surplus of such. So this will be seen when an individual is under negative stress. So if somebody's under, pressure, high pressure situations such as at work, or this can be seen when somebody is aroused through many means, an excitement of any sort, whether that be sexual or general. And just to re-clarify, it's a blanket term for any body language that burns energy in order to create relief. Okay, so in a past video, we've talked about the leg cleanse, my apologies, as to where the individual subconsciously rubs the palms of the hands atop of the legs. Now, this could be nice and slow, or this could be frantic, and you'd be able to read that and define the level of static going on in that individual's mind purely through how they, express that energy. Okay? Same with fidgeting, so they could be playing around with a pen or, clinking some coins in their hand, completely outside of their conscious awareness, but their fingertips are moving in a frantic manner to, express what the brain needs to get out, okay? An example on the sexual spectrum would be I was a participant in a group scenario where an individual complimented a taken woman, okay? So she was already in a relationship, but this individual, whom, she was quite evidently interested in, but holding back, of course, for obvious reasons, they had complimented her on her style, alright? She took it, brushed it off, and within not so long, within a few seconds or something, she acted in a bizarre manner, okay, completely separate to her baseline behaviours, which pre-existed before that, throughout the entire day. She started dancing, just as if it was nothing. She just started, and it sounds ridiculous, right? It did work in a social manner. It just looked like somebody who was in a good mood. She didn't start breakdancing on the floor and that, but she started dancing, so her feet started going, and she just had a little few seconds, alright? Just bobbing side to side and stuff. That was a positive reaction and an expression of excess energy that got provoked through that comment. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to read the room and the context and, the environment and so on and so forth. Maybe she just thought in her head, oh, I get to go home to, a nice pizza or something. Maybe that's what she had in her mind, and that's how she reacted because she was hungry. But from what I assessed, it wasn't the case. It was down to that comment. Now, she wouldn't have understood, oh, yeah, I'm putting this signal out into the world that I am, aroused in a positive means through that comment. But her body and her real-time reaction exposed that. Whereas beforehand, it was, quite a dreary, sluggish, dry social environment. It would be of excess to act in such a manner. But of course, that excess of nervous energy provoked that regardless and made it seem natural for her, and actually made it seem natural for her to be doing it anyway, because it was natural body language. It wasn't forced. when an individual is bored, you'll start to see these energy displacement behaviours come out. So an individual wants to move, an individual wants to, be alive essentially, but instead they're there in the school hall doing a test. Okay? So they're restricted to their movement, and what you'll see is their feet tapping in place. You'll see them tapping pens and beating a rhythm on the table. That's something I do when I need to get a move somewhere, or if I've got something in mind that I need to be doing, but I can't because I'm restricted. I'll start tapping my fingers on a table or on, a surface of any sorts. And that's an expression of the pent up energy inside me, which is just screaming to get out in one way or another. Alright? Let's talk about attraction. If you were to speak to a woman, yeah, and you see, now we're going to talk a real, you have to have your glasses on for this one. You know what I mean? You need to be careful. Well, not necessarily careful. Basically, if you pick this up, you know what I mean, you're doing all right. So you're speaking to a girl, yeah, and everything seems cool. She's giving you open body language. She's receptive. Things are all right. She's not necessarily going over the top, and you're wondering to yourself, is she into me? Is she not? Because she's doing a great job at not signaling that she's attracted to me at any point. But you look at the hand, right, and you'll see the thumb ever so slightly just rubbing atop the pointing finger, alright? So if you just get your hand out in front of you now, just spread your hand right, just take your thumb and just place it onto the next finger, alright? And just give it the slightest little rub, just ever so minute, okay? That's how slight this release of energy can be, okay? And as you should know from the past videos, if you've been paying attention, not only is it an excess of released energy, but it's also a self-soothing behavior because it creates self-touch. Alright, so that self-touch creates a rush of soothing neurochemicals which fight off that stress they're going through, and it's not bad stress. We get stressed when we're around those whom we're attracted to, because how do we act? How do we get the best of the situation? You understand where I'm coming from? So that was a little overview, a few examples. Basically, if somebody looks like they're buzzing through some means, take it as honesty. Yeah, they will be, alright? If they are energetic in an indirect means, so if one piece of body language is just screaming electricity, then it's a insight as to how the brain is at that moment in time. An individual who is slow and feels down and so on and so forth isn't going to have as broad array of erratic, high energy, high performance movement, alright? So I guess I'll leave it on that one, alright? If you were to consider an individual with what you would consider a nervous tic, if you apply that to your general day-to-day people, alright, because these things tend to go under wraps because we're so used to seeing them and not really assessing them for what they really represent. If you had to consider an individual whom has a particular baseline behaviour and then sometimes they'll have this sort of random tic of sorts, have a look into it. Consider yourself when it comes about, what the environment is. Is it a high stress environment for that individual? Have you brought up something in particular that has made them uncomfortable? Are you in their presence and you think they might be attracted to you? Just take everything into consideration and it'll start to make sense. And whether or not you know the terms and the, each and every sort of body language, basically you don't need to know the science, alright? You just make your own mind up, and as you start to see these patterns throughout the days, throughout the weeks, throughout the months, it becomes internalized and you start to see things as they are. It's as simple as that. Alright? So thank you very much for paying attention. Thank you for listening. As always, click like, click subscribe, and until next time, I'm saying goodbye.